Tonight, 26 days till the elections. A CBS News poll finds support for Republicans growing, but most Americans don't believe the Tea Party represents them. Meanwhile, how are unemployed voters in Ohio feeling?
I want a job.
Our deficit and our debt is too high.
Tonight, a new series, American Voices. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, light at the end of the tunnel. The rescue of those Chilean miners trapped for 9 weeks could begin in just days.
From CBS News World Headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. We begin tonight with the mood of America, 26 days before the midterm elections, with control of Congress at stake. And in the battle for the House, a new CBS News poll finds that if the election were held today, 45% of likely voters would choose the Republican candidate, 37% the Democrat. As for President Obama, only 44% of Americans approve of the job he's doing overall, and only 38% like the way he's handling the economy, the lowest number since he took office. When he took office in January of last year, 2 out of 3 Americans expected him to be a good or very good president. But that's turned around. 2 out of 3 think he's been only an average or poor president so far. That would no doubt include members of the Tea Party. But do most Americans agree with the movement's agenda? Here's national correspondent Dean Reynolds.
There are no more passionate foes of the Obama agenda than the Tea Partiers.
We have stronger principles and we have stronger values.
But while they style themselves as insurgents angry at both parties, the CBS News poll says 81% intend to vote Republican next month, including poll participant Mark Evans.
I think there's a lot of anger out there as to what's been going on the last couple of years. And I think the Tea Party is representing a lot of that.
Tea Partiers are overwhelmingly white, male, Protestant, and fired up.
And
Steve Steblick is an unemployed Tea Party advocate and a Democrat's nightmare.
They're running up deficits and spending money that we don't have, spending our children's and their children's money, and people are reacting to that.
Where would we be today were it not for the stimulus or the bailouts of the banks and the auto industry?
We might have been better off.
Large majorities of Tea Partiers agree that the bailouts were bad, and they argue for a smaller government. But how many Americans agree with the Tea Party overall is a valid question. The poll found that only 30% of the country believes the Tea Partiers reflect the views of most Americans. 41% of the country does not.
They represent a very small sliver of Americans who are upset about paying taxes. There's always going to be people who don't want to pay taxes.
And while almost 7 out of 10 Tea Partiers believe they are part of a long-term political movement, only 26% of all Americans buy that.
I think the Tea Party has no political place. No way, absolutely not.
Now, according to our poll, the Tea Party movement is not well understood in the country, and despite all the publicity it's generated, only 22% of Americans view the movement favorably. Katie?
All right, Dean Reynolds in Chicago tonight. Thank you, Dean. In these remaining weeks before the election, we'll be talking to voters all across the country for a new series called American Voices. Later in this broadcast, we'll hear from voters in Ohio, where unemployment tops 10%. On the subject of the economy, this note about the foreclosure crisis. The White House said today the president will not sign a bill Congress just sent him that would have made it easier for lenders to repossess homes. The bill would have allowed mortgage companies to notarize foreclosure paperwork electronically, and the fear is that could lead to more Americans losing their homes based on flawed documents. Overseas tonight, the massive toxic spill in Hungary is spreading. It's now reached the Danube River, which could carry the red sludge into 6 other countries before emptying into the Black Sea. Dead fish have been spotted in waters that feed into the Danube, and emergency crews have been pouring vinegar and plaster into the water to dilute the industrial waste. It may be working. Tests show the water is much less toxic by the time it hits the Danube. The disaster began Monday when a reservoir that held the sludge at an aluminum plant burst, killing 4 people. Now to Chile, where 33 miners have been trapped alive in a gold mine since August 5th. For 64 days, crews have been trying to reach them, and tonight a rescue shaft is less than 300 feet from completion. Seth Doan is outside the mine in Copiapó. Seth, I know it's been very tough for the miners and, of course, their families, but their ordeal could soon be over.
That's right, Katie. I'm standing above an area dubbed Camp Hope, which is where many of the family members of the miners have been waiting, some since they were discovered back in August. And hope has never been as high as it is right now. Initially, they were told it could be until Christmas until those miners were rescued. Now they know it could come as soon as next week. Relatives cheered as these mobile hospital units arrived this morning. Rescue capsules, one of which will be used to bring the miners to the surface, are now on site. And sunglasses were sent down to the miners to protect eyes that have not seen sunlight in more than 8 weeks. The rescue itself will be attempted using the shaft known as Plan B, one of 3 being drilled and the closest to completion. The issue now is whether to line the shaft with pipe to both reinforce the hole and to reduce the possibility of the rescue capsule becoming jammed. But inserting the protective casing would delay the rescue another 8 to 10 days. There's also the risk that if something goes wrong during the process, the rescue shaft could become blocked. Maria Segovia Rojo just wants her brother back. She's barely left the mine since the accident and told us she's never lost faith.
God does miracles, and we're almost ready to rescue them.
Now, the rescue capsule is quite small. Imagine the width roughly of a bicycle tire. So those miners need to stay trim enough and are on an exercise regimen so that they can fit into that capsule. The capsule will also be outfitted with oxygen and with a communication device so they can be in touch on that journey up. Katie?
It's fascinating. And Seth, do the miners know they may be just a few days away from freedom?
They do, Katie. They've been in regular contact with workers here trying to rescue them, and they're professionals, they're miners. They can tell from the amount of rubble that's coming down toward them through a smaller hole that's already been drilled toward them, and they can also hear the drill as it approaches.
And what else are the miners doing to keep them from going absolutely stir-crazy?
Right, they have shown incredible discipline really from the very beginning when they were rationing those small amounts of food, and that discipline continues. They've divided themselves into 3 separate groups. They're receiving 3 hot meals a day at appointed times, and they make sure that they sit down together and eat as a group. Katie?
Seth Doan reporting from Copiapó, Chile tonight. Seth, thank you so much. There was a security scare today at the airport in Philadelphia. A Bermuda-bound U.S. Airways flight was held at the gate after someone dressed as a baggage handler was spotted standing by the plane. When he was challenged, he disappeared. He was never located, but authorities determined there was no threat, and the Airbus 319 with 107 people on board was sent on its way. Medevac helicopters are meant to save lives by getting the ill or injured to hospitals as quickly as possible. But all too often, flights are ending in deadly crashes. Since 1992, 126 people have died in Medevac chopper crashes, including 19 so far this year. So today, Mark Strassman reports the FAA took action.
Chopper down. 2 months ago, this Medevac night flight crashed in Scotland, Arkansas, killing all 3 crew members, including paramedic Gayla Gregory.
Anytime you fly, there's a danger that, you're going to crash. It had crossed her mind that it could happen any time.
To save lives, Medevac pilots routinely take risks, flying at night, in bad weather, and over unfamiliar terrain. Just this summer, there have been 4 deadly air ambulance crashes nationwide.
We're sending these pilots out on these dangerous missions without the necessary safety equipment to accomplish what we want them to do.
So the FAA is proposing mandatory safety upgrades, including stricter weather limitations for flying, a mandatory pre-flight evaluation. Are the risks too great? Periodic safety retraining, and installation of an onboard system that tracks the terrain below.
Warning, terrain.
Like this system. It warns pilots they're in danger of flying into the ground. But right now, it's installed in only about 40% of America's Medevacs.
There are 400,000 of these Medevac flights every year, and the vast majority end safely. Still,
Even some operators say these new proposed safety regulations don't go far enough.
We will put an aircraft on standby for you.
In the Dallas-Fort Worth area, CareFlight transported 38,000 patients last year. Its CEO wants the FAA to demand Medevac pilots be flight instrument certified, like professional airline pilots.
The industry overall has not been as safe as we believe it should have been.
The goal of these new safety regulations, a life-saving flight for the patient and everyone aboard. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Dallas.
And still ahead here on the CBS Evening News, strawberry fields now and forever. John Lennon's fans mark his 70th birthday. But up next, American Voices, what unemployed voters in the bellwether state of Ohio are saying about the economy, the president, and the direction of the country. This is the year of the dissatisfied voter, unhappy with the way incumbents are doing their jobs and not crazy about the candidates running to replace them. In fact, in our CBS News poll, more than half of likely voters told us they wish there were other choices on the ballot. So why are voters so dissatisfied, even angry this year? We went to Ohio, a state that often reflects the mood of the nation, to ask them and listen for our new series, American Voices. 2 days before his election, Barack Obama delivered a message of hope to the working families of Cleveland.
We are 2 days away from bringing change to America.
Today, the streets tell the story. The signs are all around. Hope is fading. Frustration is growing. Everyone is saying these upcoming midterm elections are about anger. Are you angry?
I don't know if angry is the right word, but concerned. A lot of promises by both sides, Democrats, Republicans, even the independents are promising stuff that realistically they're not going to be able to come through with.
What about you, Paul?
I'm not so angry at the situation because these things happen. What I'm angry at or upset about is that there's not an ability for people to cooperate and address the problem.
And the #1 problem in Ohio is jobs. Nearly 600,000 of them have been lost here since 2000, and more than half of those in the past 2 years. Why do you think it's been so hard for you all to find a job? Letitia, what is it?
I remember getting a phone interview with one company, and they said that they had hundreds of applicants, and they weeded down the 100 to maybe the top 20.
It's a numbers game, really, in a way.
Yeah.
Are you nervous that you're just not going to be able to find something?
I'd say more than a little bit, yes, yes. I wish I'd prepared for retirement in a better way than I did. But stuff happens, and you got to move on.
And how many calls?
Linda Troush had to move on after she was downsized out of her advertising agency.
And I'm calling to let you know
Now she volunteers at a Republican call center until she finds a job. What would you like to see the Obama administration do, and can it do anything?
I really would rather have them not try and create jobs. I'd rather have them make a business-friendly environment.
We met at Slyman's, a diner known for its corned beef and working-class customers. So, Freddie, how's business?
Business has been down since the whole economy, kind of like took a turn for the worst.
Ohio has lost more than 100,000 manufacturing jobs since 2008. Tim Myers says thousands of those jobs went overseas, where labor is cheaper.
I mean, there's no way that you can compete with that. I don't see the manufacturing coming back unless some things change.
Timothy A. Myers. So what changed is Tim. He went back to school and recently graduated with a degree in nursing. Letitia Dobbins already has a master's degree in journalism, but the only news she's getting is one rejection after another.
I want a job. More jobs being created would be nice. I just think it takes time.
Do you think this country is headed in the wrong direction, Tim?
I wouldn't say the wrong direction. It's not heading in the right direction. It doesn't matter who's got the majority or who's got the minority. If the only answer that comes out of Democrat or Republican's mouth is no to everything, get rid of them. Send them back home.
What about you, Linda?
I think it's the wrong direction right now. I mean, our jobless rate is high. You know, our deficit and our debt is too high. I just don't think these policies are working.
Many Ohioans agree. Just 32% believe President Obama has made progress fixing the economy, and only 37% think he has a clear plan for creating jobs. At this table, not everyone agrees on how to make Ohio better, but they do agree it will be. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
I think I'm optimistic. Each of us have a responsibility to go out there and do the best we can to get a job. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the politicians do their job.
Definitely optimistic. More now than ever. I think our citizens are engaged.
On balance, I'm optimistic. I think that we've got a good country and a good structure of government, and I think eventually it'll sort out and work.
It's the optimism that keeps me going, that makes me want to get up and send out one more resume. At the end of the day, I will have to say that I am optimistic.
This land still made for you and me.
And if you'd like your voice to be heard this election season, you can go to cbsnews.com and click on American Voices. Still ahead, weighing the impact your weight can have on your wages. Ladies, if you would like to see your pay scale go up, you may want to look down at your bathroom scale. A study out today says women who weigh 25 pounds less than average earn about $15,000 a year more. Those 25 pounds above average earn nearly $14,000 less. Now, for men, salaries increase along with their waist size until they're obese. So much for the scales of justice. For years, TV and radio host Lou Dobbs has spoken out against illegal immigration. Then today, The Nation magazine reported that undocumented immigrants worked at his homes in New Jersey and Florida. Dobbs called the story a political assault. And the reporter who wrote it admitted on Dobbs' radio show that a contractor had hired the illegal workers, not Dobbs. Meanwhile, in Sweden today, 7 men were convicted in connection with a daring bank heist. The surveillance tape looks like a scene out of Ocean's 11. The robbers landed a helicopter on the roof, then used chainsaws and explosives to break into the bank. For a half hour, they methodically looted the vault, taking more than $5 million. They loaded it onto the helicopter, which you see on the upper right, and then they took off. Only a fraction of the money was recovered. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. Good night.